What would you do if you were born into riches so great that the world bowed at your feet, yet no one truly loved you? This is the story of Prince Ademola, a billionaire heir who had everything money could buy, except the one thing his heart longed for. And to find it, he would risk everything, even disguising himself as a poor crippled man. But what he never expected was that his greatest lie could cost him the only woman he ever loved. The golden rays of the Lagos sun spilled gently through the wide glass windows of the royal palace, glinting off polished marble floors and expensive chandeliers. Servants moved quickly but quietly, carrying trays of food, dusting furniture, and bowing as they passed through the majestic halls. The atmosphere radiated wealth, power, and luxury, yet in the middle of all this opulence, one man sat in deep silence, his face shadowed by a burden money could not lift. Prince Ademola, first son of King Alawale and heir to a multi-billion-dollar empire, leaned back in his ornate chair. His broad shoulders carried the weight of expectations, and his sharp, handsome features were hardened not by arrogance but by loneliness. To the world he was the dream of every woman, young, rich, educated, and destined to rule. But behind the fine clothes and polished shoes was a man who, despite everything, had never tasted genuine love. On the palace grounds, luxury cars purred, and music from a private celebration echoed faintly. Yet Ademola's eyes remained fixed on the garden outside his window, where birds flew freely without knowing their worth. He sighed deeply, remembering the countless times women had thrown themselves at him. Each smile rehearsed, each word dripping with flattery, each gaze filled with hunger for his wealth rather than affection for his heart. "Is this all life has for me?" he murmured under his breath, running a hand through his neatly trimmed hair. A knock on the door broke his thoughts. It was Chief Bamidele, his trusted advisor since childhood, carrying files and a knowing look. "Your Highness," he greeted, bowing slightly. "The king expects you at the gathering tonight. Several influential families will be present. Their daughters too." Ademola let out a bitter laugh, shaking his head. "Another parade of painted faces? Another night of women pretending to love the prince but courting the crown? I am tired, Bamidele. Tired of being desired, never loved." The advisor's brows furrowed. He knew this conversation was coming, but the depth of sadness in the prince's voice caught him off guard. "I want to know," Ademola continued, his voice lowering, "if there is a woman who will love me, not the billions, not the palace, not the title, just me. Ademola, the man, not the prince." Bamidele studied him carefully. "And how will you find such a woman in this world where wealth blinds hearts?" The prince's eyes glistened with a spark of resolve. Slowly, a daring idea formed on his lips. "What if I leave all this behind? What if I live as a poor man? Not just poor but crippled, a man without power or wealth. He still loves me then. I will know it is true." The advisor's jaw dropped. "Your Highness, that is madness. Dangerous madness. If the king discovers..." Ademola leaned forward, determination blazing. "Then let it be madness. For once in my life I want to be seen, not worshipped. Loved, not bought." And in that moment, the seed of a risky, life-changing plan was planted. The night air in the palace carried a quiet stillness. Beyond the tall glass windows, the city of Lagos glittered with neon lights, alive with energy. But inside Prince Ademola's private chamber, silence dominated, only broken by the crackle of the fireplace and the cautious footsteps of Chief Bamidele pacing the floor. "Your Highness, I must insist, you cannot go through with this," Bamidele said, his voice firm yet laced with worry. His hands trembled slightly as he set a file of royal duties aside. "You are the heir to this kingdom. Pretending to be crippled, pretending to be poor, do you understand what you are risking?" Ademola, dressed in a simple white shirt with his sleeves rolled up, leaned on the edge of the desk. His eyes, sharp and unyielding, glowed with a fire that had been absent for years. "I understand perfectly, Bamidele. I am risking everything, but what is the point of being loved by many if none of them love the real me?" Bamidele exhaled sharply, frustration and loyalty battling within him. "But women, there are plenty of noble ladies, beautiful ones. Surely among them." Ademola cut him off with a raised hand. "All I see in their eyes is calculation. Who wants to be queen, who wants the empire, who wants my father's wealth? Not one of them cares about Ademola, the man who laughs, the man who fears, the man who aches for love." A pause stretched between them. The prince turned to the mirror, studying his reflection. The prince everyone adored but whom no one truly knew. Then, with a quiet but deliberate motion, he picked up a torn shirt from a chair, lifting it as though it were a symbol of his rebellion. "This will be my armor," he said softly. "I will become invisible in plain sight. A crippled beggar, unworthy of attention, stripped of wealth, stripped of crown. Only then will I see the truth in a woman's heart. Bamadiel's jaw tightened. And what if you are discovered? What if the king finds out? Or worse, what if you give your heart to a woman who rejects you once the truth is revealed? Ademola's eyes grew distant, thoughtful. Then at least I will have lived honestly. For once, I will know where I stand in a woman's heart, not in her pockets. Without another word, he sat, and Bamadiel reluctantly brought forward the disguise they had prepared, a set of old weather-beaten clothes, a pair of worn slippers and a wooden crutch. The transformation was astonishing. As Ademola changed, the regal aura around him dimmed, replaced by a frail image of a struggling man. His hair was ruffled, his face smeared with dirt to mask his familiar features, and when he leaned on the crutch, even Bamadiel almost believed him to be broken. The advisor swallowed hard, whispering, "No one will recognize you, Your Highness." Ademola gave a faint smile. "Good. Tomorrow, Ademola the prince will cease to exist. From tomorrow, I will be nothing more than a crippled poor man in search of the only treasure worth having, true love." And with that vow, a dangerous, life-altering journey began. The next morning, the prince's transformation was complete. Gone was the crisp suit, the polished shoes, the aura of royalty. In his place stood a man bent slightly over a wooden crutch, his shirt torn at the seams, his face shadowed with dust and fatigue. Prince Ademola, now unrecognizable, stepped into the bustling heart of Lagos, a place he had only seen from behind tinted windows. The market was alive with noise. Women bargained for tomatoes, traders shouted the prices of yams, the air carried the smells of roasted corn, fried plantain, and fresh fish. The chaos was overwhelming, but it was exactly where Ademola needed to be. He moved carefully through the crowd, his limp exaggerated, his crutch tapping against the ground. Some people glanced at him briefly before looking away, dismissing him as another poor cripple struggling to survive. Others sneered, muttering insults as they shoved past him. Ademola's heart tightened, realizing how invisible the poor truly were in a world blinded by wealth. At one point, he struggled to carry a small basket of fruit he had purchased with coins borrowed from Bamadiel. A group of young men laughed as he stumbled, one even pushing him aside with careless cruelty. He nearly fell, his crutch slipping from his grasp, when suddenly a soft hand steadied him. "Careful," a gentle voice said. Ademola turned, meeting the warm gaze of a young woman. She wasn't dressed in extravagance but in a simple, clean gown. Her hair was tied back neatly, her skin glowing under the sun. Her eyes, kind and honest, lingered on him not with pity, but with genuine concern. "Are you all right?" she asked. For a moment, Ademola was speechless. He had been ignored and mocked all morning, yet here was someone treating him like a human being. He nodded slowly. I'm fine. Thank you." She gave a small smile and adjusted the basket in his hands. "You should let me help. It looks heavy." Ademola's heart swelled. "No, please. I can manage." But the girl shook her head. "There's no shame in accepting help." With that, she took part of the load and walked with him. As they moved through the market, Ademola learned her name, Amina. She sold food nearby to support her younger siblings since their parents had passed. Life was hard, but her spirit was not broken. She laughed easily, spoke with warmth, and radiated a strength that humbled the disguised prince. When they parted, Amina waved lightly. "Take care of yourself, stranger." Ademola stood frozen, watching her walk away, his heart pounding. For the first time in his life, someone had seen him without the crown, without the wealth, and treated him kindly. And just like that, his journey had truly begun. Days turned into weeks. Every morning, Ademola returned to the market, not as a prince but as the crippled poor man. And every day Amina was there. She sold food by the roadside, her small stall offering jollof rice, beans and fried plantain. Despite the hardship, she carried herself with dignity. Ademola would limp over, pretending to buy food with the little coins he had, and they would talk. Sometimes she laughed at his awkward jokes. Other times she shared pieces of her life, how she dreamed of finishing school, how she wanted her younger brother to become a doctor one day, how she wished for a love built not on riches but on respect. Each word pierced Ademola's heart. She was everything he had hoped to find, pure, selfless, genuine. Yet guilt also grew inside him. Every smile she gave was to a man who did not exist. One evening, as the sun set and painted the market golden, Amina handed him an extra piece of plantain without charging. "You always buy the smallest plate," she teased. "You can't keep surviving on so little." Ademola chuckled softly, though he ached knowing he could feed her entire family with a single day's allowance as a prince. But he bit his tongue. "Thank you, Amina. You're too kind." As she watched him eat, she sighed. "Life is hard, isn't it? But we move on. I believe God has a plan for everyone." Her resilience humbled him. In that moment he wanted to tell her the truth. But fear gripped him. What if she saw him differently once she knew? So he smiled, hiding the storm inside his chest. Their friendship grew deeper and slowly, love began to blossom. Scene 5, The Temptation and Test. One afternoon, a sleek black car rolled into the market, drawing stares. Out stepped Kunal, a wealthy young businessman known for arrogance and greed. He spotted Amina and smirked, immediately drawn to her beauty. "Pretty girl," he said smoothly, flashing his gold wristwatch. "What are you doing here selling food when you could be living like a queen? Come with me. I'll buy you anything you want." Amina stiffened. "I'm fine where I am." But Kunal persisted. "I can change your life. Money, clothes, cars, you name it. Don't waste your youth with people like this." He glanced mockingly at Ademola, who stood nearby with his crutch. Ademola's heart sank, bracing himself for disappointment. But Amina's eyes narrowed. "Respect is worth more than gold. I'd rather be with someone who values me than with a man who sees me as a trophy." Her words cut through the air, leaving Kunal stunned. He scoffed and stormed away, muttering insults. Ademola, overwhelmed, could barely contain the joy surging in his chest. She had chosen dignity over wealth. For the first time he dared to believe her love could be real. That night, under the soft glow of the moon, Ademola and Amina sat outside her small home. The crickets sang and the distant hum of Lagos filled the background. Ademola's chest pounded. He had faced business rivals, spoken before kings, but nothing compared to the fear of what he was about to do. "Amina," he began softly, "you've been kind to me when no one else would. You've made me feel seen and alive." He hesitated, then whispered, "I think I'm falling in love with you." Amina's lips parted in surprise. Her cheeks flushed as she lowered her gaze. I feel something too," she admitted. "But what future could we have? You struggle every day and I barely get by myself." Ademola's heart ached. He wanted to tell her everything, that he could give her the world. But instead, he touched her hand gently. Love doesn't need riches to survive. In that tender moment their hearts connected. Though built on a lie, it felt truer than anything he had ever known. Their fragile happiness shattered weeks later. King Alawale, furious after discovering his son's disguise, orchestrated a lavish public event, a gala with hundreds in attendance. Bamidele begged the king to reconsider, but his decision was final. The prince must be exposed. When Amina was invited by a mysterious sponsor, she attended in modest attire, curious but unaware. The hall glittered with wealth. Then suddenly a hush fell over the crowd. At the top of the grand staircase stood Ademola, dressed not as the crippled man she knew, but in full royal regalia. The heir, the billionaire prince. Gasps filled the room. Amina froze, her heart shattering. Ademola's eyes locked with hers, desperate and pleading. But Amina's face crumbled. She turned and fled, tears streaming, the weight of betrayal crushing her chest. The days that followed were torment. Amina refused to see him. Each time he tried to explain, she shut the door. "You made me love a ghost," she cried one evening when he caught her outside. "Who are you, Ademola? The crippled man I cared for, or the prince who lied to me?" Ademola's voice shook. "I only wanted to know if someone could love me without my crown. I never meant to hurt you." But Amina's trust was broken. The love that had bloomed now wilted under the shadow of deception. Kunal reappeared, seizing the opportunity. He whispered poison into Amina's ears. "He lied once, he'll lie again. Come with me and you'll never know betrayal." But when Ademola came to her, not with guards, not with riches, but as himself, her heart wavered. He knelt, no crown on his head, no wealth in his hands, only love in his eyes. "I am just a man who wants your heart," he whispered. Tears welled in Amina's eyes. After a long silence she spoke softly, "If you ever hide from me again, I will walk away forever. Love cannot survive without truth." Ademola bowed his head. "Never again. From this day forward I am yours in truth." They embraced, sealing their love. Months later, at a simple wedding chosen by Amina herself, they stood hand in hand. No grandeur overshadowed the ceremony, only genuine love. And so the story closed with a lesson. True love does not see riches or poverty, it sees the heart. But trust, once broken, must be rebuilt with truth.